Allah just wants you to come as you are. Like, come to the mat broken. You don't need to come as a finished product. You don't need to look the perfect Muslim. You don't need to be the perfect Muslim, if there even is such a thing. Like, come broken. Come like tears. Come with all your problems.
Welcome to a new episode of the Kifaya Diet Podcast. Today's conversation will be in English, although there won't be a translation, unfortunately. I am planning to have an accompanying blog post in both English and Arabic that you can refer to. I am so happy today to be sitting down with my dear friend Safia. She's an eating disorder survivor and a recovery coach trained at the Carolyn Costin Institute, just like me. Safia brings a unique perspective on how faith and spirituality can play a central role in healing. And in this conversation, she shares how Islam was her main reason to recover, the role of Salah in finding balance, and how spiritual goals can support anyone on their journey. So let's dive in. Hi, Safia. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Thank you. Lovely to see you. Thank you for the time. And we're finally doing this. We've been saying we were going to do this for ages.
I know, right? Like, it has been long overdue. I'm so excited for it.
I'm excited to dig in, and I'm very excited about the topic. But for everybody to know you and also understand where you're coming from, I'd love it if you can start out by letting us know how it was that you developed an eating disorder and about your recovery journey.
Absolutely, yeah. So, hi everybody. My name is Safia. I'm an eating disorder recovery coach. I had the same training as Arwa through the Carolyn Costin, and I have lived experience of having recovered myself from anorexia, which later kind of shape-shifted into orthorexia, and issues with movement, as well as a lot of people do struggle with when you have an eating disorder. So my eating disorder started late teens and continued right the way through my 20s. It kind of began with a diet that kind of got out of hand and was totally overwhelming, and put me into a really dark place for many years. And it wasn't until I got married to my husband and we moved to Dubai, and it was after maybe like a few years of living here, and I realized I was really sick of having an eating disorder and wanting to start a family, and kind of just sick of living this life following the rules of the eating disorder, that I decided to get help. I had therapy over here, and it was a long kind of maybe 3-4 year recovery process. It took time, but it made me so passionate about recovery, and as a result I retrained to become a coach, and now I get to work with people internationally with all of their eating disorder struggles and just kind of finding freedom on the other side and figure out what kind of life they want and helping them get there. So it's really fulfilling work, and it's such a full 360 moment to kind of be able to support other people in the struggles that I went through. Alhamdulillah.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Let's dig into the topic of the episode, which is how Islam played a role in your recovery.
Yeah, I mean, a big role. And thank you again for giving me this space to be able to talk about it, because it's something that I don't speak about very much. I often talk about, I've got a podcast as well called Rewired, and often on that podcast I'll be talking about, with my co-host Meg, about this idea that I recovered because to be a mum and to be the type of mum I wanted to be, and to be a wife and to be a daughter and the sister that I wanted to be, and a friend, and to have freedom around food and life and all that flexibility. Something I don't talk about is actually the biggest motivation, which was to gain a closer relationship to Allah and be able to practice Islam in the way that I wanted to. And don't get me wrong, it's a long journey and I am not there yet, but will it ever be? I mean, I think that's part of the thing is are we ever, okay, now I'm happy with my relationship. I think we're always going to be striving. But one thing I knew for sure was actually that the eating disorder was a huge veil between me attaining that. There was no, maybe it doesn't make a difference. Maybe having an eating disorder helps. No, it always was a veil. It always stopped me from being the type of Muslim and that relationship that I wanted with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So on a practical level, that meant I couldn't join in with Ramadan, with fasting. I struggled to fit my eating disorder routine into prayer times. On a spiritual level, I just wasn't able to be the type of Muslim I wanted to be. We're taught to emulate our Prophet, peace be upon him, and I was a very rigid person. I wasn't able to be there for other people. I'd read stories about the way that he was with other people and interact, and I thought, oh, I'd love to be that type of person, or I'd love to be like his wives or his, daughter or his granddaughters. And I thought, wow, they're such amazing, incredible women, but I can't, because I've got all of these eating disorder rules that, okay, somebody could be in a crisis, but I can't drop it because I need to have my dinner on time, or I need to have the type of dinner I want. And it was like I was so aware of it, and it really like hurt my soul. But it wasn't that I was unaware of what was going on. I really did know, and it really was just kind of added to the shame and the feelings of unhappiness. But like, I guess that was like a gift in a way, because it kind of propelled me to like want recovery more. It was even more of a recovery. Like, I wanted to be the type of person, I wanted to be the type of Muslim, or at least get rid of that one veil so that I can start working on the many other veils that we have,
Wow. Wow.
That makes sense.
If we put that into practical terms, like if you had that as a vision that you wanted to accomplish, can you like expand on like specific steps that you started to take, something that's a bit tangible?
Absolutely. I mean, I think as you recover and your brain is literally rewiring and you are actually nourishing your brain, so much of it becomes easier anyway. Like, it's very difficult to connect spiritually and be the type of person you want to be when you are underweight, undernourished, still keeping to all these rules. So a big part of it was just ED recovery, was like challenging the rules, gaining weight, like having more freedom, having more flexibility. That translated into my life. That flexibility with my food translated into flexibility in my life, to be able to be flexible with other people and be the type of person I wanted to be. So that was kind of one thing. And then I guess like in tangible terms, it was like learning more about Islam and the beauty of it. And like, it's not like a harsh religion that some of us are brought up to kind of understand Islam to be. It's so beautiful, and just kind of seeing the wisdom of every single practice that we have. And it's so interesting because as you recover, there is so much wisdom from Islam that is used by practitioners in recovery, because obviously everybody has that fitra, that natural fitra. And so sometimes practitioners will say something from their natural fitra, I feel, and it's like, oh gosh, do you know this wasn't Islam? Like, I always want to say that. I'm like, did you know? So I think starting to see those connections really helped as well, and starting to see like, okay, if you're not ready to like change everything all at once, like don't have that all or nothing thinking of the eating disorder when you're applying it to Islam, because you're never going to be all in. Like, you're never the Prophet, peace be upon him. You're never going to be everything. So start small, like start with some dhikr, if that helps you. Like I used to really struggle getting to sleep, for instance, when I had my eating disorder. So I'd say subhanallah over and over and over until I fall asleep. And even now that helps me. So like starting small with little practices, and then reading a lot and spiritually connecting and seeing how that spiritual connection to Islam can actually heal so many of like the wounds. And there's some amazing people who've done some great work. Like Yasmin Rokahed has written a fantastic book called Reclaim Your Heart. Halwa has written Secrets of Divine Love. There's so many fantastic books that if you read them, they're about Islam, but you could apply them to your recovery with an eating disorder too.
So do you remember anything you've read in those books, for example, that affected you, or any specific verses from the Quran, or any practices that got you to feel like, made recovery, let's say, progress in a different way or a faster way?
Absolutely. I think Yasmin Moorhead's work about Reclaim Your Heart was really powerful to me. Understanding this idea that all of us have like mental idols, like people, when we talk about like idol worship, we imagine like, oh, people have got this kind of like literally wooden idol. But actually, every single one of us has mental idols. And that's not to like shame us or make us feel bad, but it's about like actually becoming aware of them and thinking like, right, I've got this one in my life. Like, how can I bring it down so that I can gain closeness to Allah? Because when I have it, like, I'm never going to be close to Allah. So for me, that was like how my body looked. It was the food rules. It was like my routines, my eating disorder routines, all of those things. Like, those were all mental idols. And she was talking about reclaiming your heart. So don't give your heart to all these things. Like, actually bring your heart back and center it only in Allah, because that's the only place. We look to all of these things for safety, but the only place you can truly find safety is with Allah. Like, you can't find it in any other place. Like, all the other things are fleeting. Like, I was trading the quick wins of an eating disorder for like enduring safety, love with Allah, And so actually, like, that is the only place you can find peace. So that was one. And A Halwa, Secrets of Divine Love. Oh my gosh, such an amazing book. It makes you see the beauty and the love of Islam. And like, it just is just so heartwarming. It's just so like, so spiritual, makes you see. And like, there's a beautiful chapter on Salah, like the deep wisdom behind it, what the different positions mean, what the wordings mean, like every single pillar has gone through and what is the deeper meaning. And it just makes you love the faith more. And it makes you, you know, when you have an eating disorder, your identity is very like connected to the eating disorder. Like I am somebody who's anorexic. I'm like an anorexic person. That is my identity. I don't know who I am without it. But then you start to identify with like, no, actually I'm Muslim. And like, what does it mean to be Muslim? And this beautiful religion. And a lot of people struggle with recovery is this idea of like, who am I on the other side? Like, who am I after I recover? I don't know. Is there this big gaping space? And I feel like Islam kind of gives you the blueprint for that of like, you don't worry, like, because you don't know what job you have or what relationship you might have or what friendships or hobbies. But at the end of the day, those are just things. Like actually the thing that is tethering you is like your relationship to Allah. So as long as you know that through this struggle, you're going to get closer to Allah, you know, it's going to be positive outcome, whatever, you know? So yeah, those two, I mean, there's so many spiritual gems of Islam. There are lots of books that were really powerful for my recovery.
And it's lovely that you would read these books, and because you're working on the recovery, you can sort of see, okay, there's, let's say, a concept in recovery, or there's like a step that you need to take, and there's something similar that has maybe even a deeper meaning that is also there in Islam.
Exactly.
And it sort of makes it even more natural that you take that path, let's say. So I love how you mentioned those books, because I'm now excited to read them and learn so much, because you also hear about when someone has an eating disorder or if someone has an addiction, you know, they talk in general terms of like there's a hole that they're filling with this addiction or with this disorder, and nothing will ever fill that hole other than faith.
Absolutely.
And spirituality. So do you feel like it was, you know, because you mentioned identity. So is it that you sort of, I guess it's your healthy self in the end, as we say.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. Yeah, there's like that hole. And I guess if people haven't got Islam, maybe people will say that that space is filled with their values. That's what I feel like people, you know, and then I think that is what Islam is to us. It's like we are given those values. And so rather than figuring out rather than like looking through a list and being like, oh yeah, I think that aligns with me, and I think that value is me, and that value is me. We're like, oh, here are the values. And it's like, thank you.
Exactly.
Because and they are really helpful, and some of them are stronger to us, some of them are easier for us to connect to than others, but like it's so nice to not think, right, I've got to figure that bit out. That's the next, you know, that's quite overwhelming and scary. I quite liked staying safe actually and not knowing. So I completely agree. It was like a hole that nothing else would ever fill. And look, I'm a mother of 3 children. I adore my children, they're my life, but there is a space for Allah that like nothing in the world can ever fill for me.
100%.
So I completely agree with you. All the things that you read, and like when you're recovering, the mantras, all of those things, we have so many mantras.
100%, exactly.
So, you know, there's so many, you know, with hardship comes ease, you know, and that means like, you know, not that hardship comes, then ease comes later. No, at the same time as your hardship is ease. So what was my ease at the same time as I was recovering? I had therapy, I had a therapist, I had help, I had a husband who supported me. All of these things, like we have things coming at the same time. So there are so many powerful ones, aren't there?
I love how you mentioned values, because when you were mentioning the Prophet ﷺ, you were thinking, you know, I want to be like him. I want to, but the eating disorder was stopping you from being like him. But it's obviously he represented certain values that were important to you, but you weren't able to live by these values because the eating disorder stopped you from living by these values. So he represented your true self that had these values.
Oh, I love how you just phrased that. You're so right. You're so right. It was like I saw that in him.
And then each value would probably connect to one of God's names. So that's another thing. It all goes back.
Yes, and there's a beautiful book, isn't there, on the 99 names of Allah, and just reading those, and you're so right, they all go back to that, don't they? you know. And it's like the stories, you know, even like Prophet, peace be upon him, like they said, there's a hadith that he never used to complain about food, you know, even if it wasn't good, he would just not say anything. Oh my gosh, I was very opinionated about food and the type of food, and I needed da. And so like it was all these things that I was like, this is exactly who I want to be. And look, I'm very not anywhere near it even now, but I knew that having an eating disorder was never going to get me any closer to it. It was always going to be such a big veil to me getting closer to it.
And you're just so far from living your values. It's just this, you know, that's a lot of the work that we do with our clients is that, you know, what are their values and can you live by your values with the eating disorder? You can never live by your values with the eating disorder. Never,
No,
not even
absolutely.
one value.
You can't. And it's not your fault. It's really not your fault. It's what the eating disorder does to everybody. Exactly. It's not just you. And that's something as well, like I love that, like always in the Quran and in our prayer, it's constantly talking about Allah, the most compassionate. And I really never understood that enough. And then right now, actually, I'm doing a course with a fantastic therapist called Dr. Safia, and she works a lot on somatic practices. But she did research, and she found that one of the most powerful ways that people recover and stay recovered from eating disorders is having self-compassion. And honestly, until that moment, I used to think, why is this word repeated over and over and over again? And then when she said that, I thought, wow, yeah, because we struggle to have compassion for ourselves. If you've got an eating disorder, this is hard recovering. If you're living in life, just life generally is tough. So coming from this place of like, Allah is most compassionate and he wants you to not put too much shame on yourself, just actually like, remember this is hard, and there's somebody who recognizes how hard it is. So there's so many like little gems all over the place, and it's just about trying to reflect upon those and see like how they connect to you and how they can help you along in your journey.
And Salat is a reminder of that 5 times every day.
Every day. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, Salah has been very powerful. And when we were talking about maybe like what to focus on this podcast, honestly, it could be like many books could be written on eating disorders in Islam, because almost every single principle of Islam would help with an eating disorder. Honestly, everyone. But Salah, I feel, is very special. And I think that's because in an eating disorder, the whole eating disorder is absolutely tons of rituals, tons of rules, tons of routine. Like whether that's you wake up and you're doing body checking, or you're waking up and you're engaging in unhealthy movement, or whatever it is that you're doing, it's a ritual that you do every day. If you've got an eating disorder, 100% you'll be having rituals right now. On this day I do this, at this time I do this, at this time I eat, at this time I do that. Some are related to food and some will not be, but it's absolutely full of them. I think as human beings, we thrive off of safety of the rules and routines and rituals. And if we don't use the ones that Allah has given us, like I think we start to create our own to feel safe. So it's like how children, we say they feel safe through a routine. I think when life is feeling really stressful, we're like, let me bring some rituals and routines to make myself feel safe. And so I think that Islam is so powerful, because when you're recovering and you're trying to take out those unhealthy ones, sometimes people struggle with what to replace it with. Okay, so if I'm not engaging in movement in the morning anymore, what do I replace that with? Islam has an answer. You can do prayer, you can do dhikr, you can do reflection of Quran. Like there's so many things. You can literally do a switch for a switch. And so I think that that's really, you know, powerful. And like rather than engaging the eating disorder ones, you've got these really beautiful ones that will actually benefit you. And I think that something that I really notice is that whatever your rituals are, they will be what will reinforce whatever you're circumambulating around, whatever you're going around. So like with the eating disorder ones, the more you do the eating disorder rules, the more you are strengthening those neural pathways in your brain, but like center yourself towards the eating disorder or diet culture or whatever it is. And whereas if you're doing rituals instead that Allah has given you, you are strengthening your connection with Allah. And I used to think like, what is this? Like, you know, my prayer has not always been very good, to be honest. And I used to be really like inquisitive around it. Like, why did Allah prescribe it? Why did he make us do it 5 times a day? Why is it so similar things over and over? And then I realized like, oh, we need that. Like we need that constant reminder. If you look at mantras that people use with eating disorders, they're the same ones over and over and over again. Opposite actions, you know, like repeat. And to do that, like we are naturally very forgetful. So we need those like constant reminders through the day of like, this is why we're here, this is our purpose, this is what we want to center towards. Like, don't center towards those like other things. Like, your purpose in this world is not to be as thin as possible. Your purpose in the world is not to feel safe through food and movement. It's not to look a certain way. Your purpose is so much greater than that. Allah put you on this earth for like such a beautiful reason, and when we are distracted by those things, you'll never find it. And I think that those rituals are so powerful to helping you recover. You don't need to find new ones. They're literally given to you, you know?
Yes, and especially if you are doing it consciously with the intention, you know?
Absolutely. Oh, yes, absolutely. And I think that's something that is maybe why I struggled with Salah in the past, because I struggled to do anything without intention. I struggle to do anything unless I'm like really present with it and I see the meaning of it and why I'm doing it and that sort of thing. And so I had to learn like the meaning. And Secrets of Divine Love, the book I mentioned, has got a beautiful chapter on prayer and what the different positions mean. So when I'm going through the positions of the prayer, I'm honestly trying to remember like what all of them mean and what I'm saying. And, I'm thinking about like in Surah Fatiha, oh my gosh, you could do like a whole series just on how Surah Fatiha like helps with eating disorder recovery. So just focusing on like the straight path, and that's the one that you want to follow, and not allowing outside influences and social media to interact with that. Like, just stay on your straight path, remembering like there's gonna be a day at the end, that day of judgment, and like not in a scary way, but in a kind of way of like, what do you want to bring to that day? Do you want to what do you want to say you've spent your life doing with intention? It's such a beautiful reminder, and it's such an important thing what you said about intention, Aura, because generally like with eating disorder recovery, intention is everything. And so like, so in Islam, again, that concept of intention from Salah, like you can apply to eating disorder recovery. Like, okay, you're eating this, what's your intention behind it? You're moving your body, is it eating disorder or is it a healthy intention? And so like, again, it's that concept, those themes can be applied.
Could someone, especially at the start, or during the eating disorder or at the start of recovery, could Salat be triggering or harder because they have to feel their body?
Yeah, absolutely. And I you know what, I love that you said that, because I think that was part of my struggle as well. Is this idea of being so aware of your body. Like, these actions, these grounding actions are very much taking you away from your head and back down to your body. And what do we all struggle to do with an eating disorder? We struggle to be in our body. We struggle to be. We don't want to be grounded. We want to be lost. We want to be numb. We don't want to. And then you also got these actions where you are like touching your body and that sort of thing. And so it's all the struggle, isn't it? And I agree with you. So trying to move away from that and focus your thoughts on something else, like, what those actions actually mean. And actually, like, the most powerful one for me is sajda, because when you're putting your head to the ground, that is so symbolic. Like, you are putting those thoughts that literally might be torturing you to the ground, and you're elevating your heart. And what you are symbolizing is like, no mind, no brain. Have you ever heard somebody with an eating disorder recovery say, no brain, don't do that? You're saying, no brain, don't do that. My heart is more important. I'm elevating my heart. Your heart is above your head in that position. So my heart is more important. My values are more important, and I'm tethering to that. So trying to focus more on that than like anything that could be triggering through any of the positions. And also, it also brings awareness, right? So when we're praying, prayer is a gift in a way, because it's a gift in many ways, but one way it's a gift is that it brings awareness to anything we're struggling with. Even now, as a recovered person, in my prayer, if I'm distracted by something, then I know that's something I need to work on in my life. Like, why is that preoccupying my time in prayer? That's something either I'm anxious about, I'm stressed about, I'm placing too much importance on. So when I was praying, obviously all my thoughts would be eating disordered. What am I going to eat after this? What did I have before? And so it's very stressful. But actually, without awareness, we can't change. And so it's a gift to become aware of these things.
And could someone who's had an eating disorder, and I guess, I know you sometimes you can generalize and say this type of eating disorder is more perfectionistic than another type, but in the end, they tend to be very hard on themselves.
Yes.
They're very
critical.
self-critical. Could that also translate in that, I'm not praying properly, or I'm not praying perfectly, or and then there's that reminder in Salat that God will forgive, and God is the most compassionate, and you need to be easier on yourself.
Honestly, that was so freeing to me, because I don't think we're really taught that growing up. Well, I wasn't taught that too much growing up. I don't think that until recently more I've learned about the fact that Allah expects us. You know, He expects us to mess up, and we will mess up. And we'll mess up every day. Even after we recover, we're never going to be a finished product, you know? And having, like, He keeps repeating that I'm the most forgiving, I'm the most merciful, I'm the most compassionate. Why? He's not doing it for fun. It's like everything that Allah says is for a reason. So He's saying that over and over again because He doesn't want you to be perfectionistic anymore, you know? And the fact that you are coming to Him, like, that is everything. And I loved, like, there's so many things that gave me so much peace, you know, like if you take one step towards Allah, He comes running towards you. Like all of those little things, okay, I'm going to take a step. I'm going to take one small step. That could be anything. That could be a prayer. That could be a bit of zikr. That could be a dua. That could be a bit of charity. That could be a smile to somebody else. Whatever your way of showing that step towards Allah is, He will come running. And that was like so powerful for me to know. And the most important thing is to keep coming back to Allah. You know, and like, isn't it the qalb, heart in Islam? One of the meanings for qalb means the heart turner, you know, the turning. And so if that was the name that Allah gave for the heart, like, okay, He knows that our hearts are going to keep turning, going to this, going to that, going to this. Okay, but we're going to come back to the prayer, and we're going to turn our hearts. We're going to try and direct towards Allah. We're going to face the Kaaba. We're going to connect with Allah once again. And again, the next day will come and we will be distracted and it will turn. And then we come back again. And realizing that's part of the journey, but forgiving yourself through that, you know?
And that also represents that any obstacles you might face during recovery, any setbacks you might go through, that it's okay. You can pick up and come back and be compassionate towards yourself and forgive yourself, and it's okay, and just come back.
I think part of the journey is learning not to be perfectionistic. I think part of recovery is learning you cannot recover perfectly and you're gonna mess up, and to learn how to surrender to that and how to forgive yourself. I think that is part. I feel like everything we go through in life is a gift to learn something from. Even though I'm really unhappy that I had an eating disorder, obviously, I feel sad that I missed so many years of my life, but I do feel like it was a gift to me. I learned so much through that experience that I feel like many people won't learn, you know, until later on in life. And I think that taking it like that and realizing, right, what can I learn from this experience? I learned not to be perfectionistic. I learned to be kinder to myself, to be compassionate, to realize life is hard, and to keep coming back to your intention of what you want. There are so many things. So I think you're absolutely right for saying that.
And how does this play a part in body image acceptance, like specifically body image acceptance?
I mean, massively, right? I mean, even the way we dress for prayer, you know, we dress for prayer in a way that is just so... I used to wonder, like, why do we as women have to dress in that way? And I'm sure there is so much wisdom that I have no idea for, and maybe many, many reasons. But one thing I may be connected to was this idea that Allah doesn't care about what this part of our body looks like or that part of our body looks like. He just wants us to come as we are. Like, it's almost like when I put on that prayer outfit, like, I just go back to my soul and just being me, like, less conscious of like everything, all the parts of my body. So there's that. But I agree with you when you said earlier that it can be triggering. So to like keep bringing the mind back to what you're reciting, doing things with intention, you know, and the grounding can be very powerful. Now, this is something that is very popular these days, this idea of like grounding and somatic practices. And that's something I used to be like, well, why with prayer do we not just sit down and just meditate? Why do we have to stand? And then I realized, like, wow, there is so much research to show that grounding is so powerful. And we ground with our feet, you know, our head, our hands, our knees. Like, there are so many points at which we ground, and that in itself can be like very healing and bring so much presence that I am here in this world, not in your head about your body. Yeah. And I think that like realizing as well, like, that collective idea of all of us as a community kind of coming together to pray in one direction, like you're praying in the same direction as the whole ummah of the world. And like, so it kind of takes you out of this idea of like your body being the most important thing, that you're part of this bigger thing. You're part of this bigger community. You're part of a bigger purpose. And I think that is so powerful in itself.
I love that. And if you're going to break it down into daily practices, obviously salat, maybe expand on salat, because you mentioned how it gets you up in the morning. It's something to do at the start of your day other than exercising. What about the rest of your day and any other practices?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's like, again, it's not this idea, like I would hate for people to think that I'm giving them this checklist. It's more like, okay, we have the practices that we should be doing, like the prayer, but actually there's a beautiful menu of other ones that you can select and choose as you have time, as you feel need, whether it's some dua or, I mean, there's literally, you could spend your whole day doing practices, right? But it's like what fits into your day, what works for you, what you connect to the most. But yeah, for me, like it was connecting to Salah and bring that in 5 times a day. And like, even, I work with people who are not Muslim, but they are very spiritually inclined. Like I've got one really amazing client who's so spiritual and she really loves me. We set spiritual goals each week. So like how we set the food goals and the movement goals, we set spiritual goals. And she has created a prayer area. So that was like one of the goals, create a prayer area. And then she will go to that prayer area through the day. So if you're like not ready to go full blown, like maybe it's like you go there and you do dhikr in your prayer area, or that you maybe do reflection and Quran in that area. And that's now become like a safe space for her, where she goes to that space when she's feeling overwhelmed. And isn't that the purpose of our prayer anyway? Like we've got these 5 times a day, but we can go again and we can go to the prayer mat and we can open our heart, and it's that safe space that we have. So I think that practically kind of bringing that in, you could do some dhikr and like really thinking about like what are the words, what are you saying as you're saying the dhikr. Like Allahu Akbar was so powerful for me. It was this idea that like nothing is more important than Allah. Like these thoughts are so strong, but there's something way more powerful. And like even when you were raising our hands in prayer, like as I was doing it, I would be like almost imagining the thoughts going out of my head. Allahu Akbar, nothing's more important than Allah. Go. I don't know why our hands are raised, but to me, like that's what I connected to. So there's that, there's journaling. That Secrets of Divine Love book I mentioned, they have a journal, associated journal. So you could do that. There's different Islamic kind of like meditations and things like that it could be really helpful to you at all. There's so many, YouTube videos and things like that. So even like remembering Allah, that gave me so much peace. I mean, I say that, I literally just took words from the Quran. I think, isn't it, through the remembrance of Allah do we find peace? Like it's true. You can be so worried about the future, you can be so worried about your eating disorder and all what you've eaten but actually nothing brings you peace like what is this world about? What is this one source, amazing source of the world? Zooming out, imagining like this earth, the planets, the solar system, the universe is like the one who made all of this and made me and felt like the world needed me, like and needed you, and why you're special, and he needed you in this world. Like it just kind of zooms out. We talk a lot about in eating disorder recovery is like zooming out, seeing the bigger picture, because when you've got an eating disorder, it's kind of like Meg, who I do the podcast with, she always says like it's like you're looking through a straw, looking at life through a straw. You've got this whole big picture, and when she says that, I'm thinking, yeah, it's like the whole universe that Allah made, and you're like looking through a straw at this one tiny aspect of your life, but if you zoom out and imagine the whole thing. So I think like all of these practices you can bring in, you can do journaling around, you can do reflection around, like every day just do one little journal, one little reflection, maybe listen to a podcast for 10 minutes, do a bit of journaling around it. I think through contemplation, you can gain so much. Like you can gain so much through dhikr, but you can also gain so much through your own thoughts. I find that usually people with eating disorders, something I've really noticed, they're very deep thinkers and very spiritual people. And so like they're very sensitive people. And so actually you've got so much to give to this process of reflection. So yeah, I think that that's probably some of the more kind of like tangible ways. Or even if you take like something from the Quran, like I mentioned earlier, like with hardship comes ease. Okay, so let's look for the ease that's going on in your life. Make it like almost like a gratitude journal. You're doing one related to that. Okay, what's the ease that's going on in your life right now? And just kind of bring yourself, make 3 points each day. What's the ease going on? So yeah, there's some of these that I think are helpful.
I love what you said about how people with eating disorders can be very spiritual even though they're lost. So it's as if they need it even more.
Yes. Because I feel like that's true.
Yeah,
For me, that was true. You're right.
and in the end, when you have an eating disorder or anything else, it could be something else. Replace it with something else that makes your life out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Good way to say
like,
it.
you know,
Out of
one of
balance.
the definition of recovered is when food and your body take a normal place in your life. It doesn't take over
Yes,
your life. So when
exactly.
it takes over your life, there is no space, not just for spirituality. There's not just your relationship with Allah. There is no space for anything. No
Anything.
space for a relationship with yourself, your friends, your family. You know, everything is out of balance because it's taken over. And even when someone is, you know, is able to live a relatively normal life with an eating disorder, it's still draining and
So
not the quality of life they want to live long term.
absolutely. It's almost
And
more hard
that's
because you're
when you,
kind of living this secret life. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, and like you were saying, like the bigger picture, when you zoom out and then you can literally see that my, like this preoccupation with what I eat and how I look and what I weigh and what other people think and what other people eat and how, and also you end up even focusing on how other people look, you know, that's
Absolutely.
all your focus. It's taking away from all the other aspects of life that help you live that balanced life. We're not talking about balance 100%.
No.
It's very normal, depending on what stage of life you're in, for it to be balanced in a different way. You have young kids, you know, they're taking a big, let's say, proportion of your focus, attention, time, and energy. That's very normal. I'm in a different stage of life with older kids.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's being able to actually make the choice. Make
Yeah.
that choice
Yeah.
of where am I focusing now in this stage of life, as opposed to the eating disorder deciding for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And also, you know, all of those stages of life, if you want, you can bring Islam into, you know, like, you know, I was in bed last night with the kids. So I was sat in between the two of them. I've got a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And anyway, it's between the 5 and 3-year-old because they sleep together. And they were like, Mummy, where's Allah? And, you know, we
Oh,
had this whole discussion about this and like, so why did Allah make us? And
oh,
you know, and it's almost like we were going through Kul Huwallahu Ahad, like kind of like, you know, in like kid form. And it was just so gorgeous. And like,
oh.
it's such a blessing to hopefully, inshallah, give them a really like positive feeling about Islam. So like everything you do in your life can kind of almost come back to that. But I agree with you, like, and even like as a Muslim, like we want to be the best wife we can be. We want to be the best mom we can be. We want to be the best friend, the best neighbor, the best daughter. Like we want to be good. Those people, like we want to be kind to those people. It's like being a good Muslim is not just about like worship with Allah. Your relationship with other people is massively about being a Muslim. So yeah, I
And it
completely agree
needs
with you.
to
And
start with yourself. You need to be kind to yourself.
be kind to yourself. God, that's such a good one. Such a hard one. That is such a
Oh,
hard
it is
one.
hard.
Even more so, people with eating disorder struggle it so much. That self-compassion, that self-care, and that's such a big part of our work is bringing that in and what that means to them and what do they want that to play in their life. But it's a tough one, isn't it? It's doing kind thoughts to yourself.
And
Yeah.
even though nobody's losing, it's not like if you're kind to yourself, then you're not going to be as kind to other people. Nobody's
No,
losing anything by, you know, you're not losing anything by being kind to yourself. But
absolutely.
it's still so hard.
It's still so difficult. You just feel like unworthy. Like that's like if you listen, I keep mentioning A Helwa because she was just been such a powerful part of my journey to gaining closeness with Islam. But even if you listen to her podcasts and everything, the way she speaks, and she's written a beautiful poetry book as well. Like the way she talks about the fact that Allah created you and wanted you out of all the billions of stars he like wanted, you know, also made you and needed you in the world. And like it can, you know, like that can sometimes help when you don't feel like your worth and you don't feel proud of yourself. Like that can bring it back to, okay, no, I was here and I was here for a purpose and I was here for a reason and I am special. It's tough though. It's a really difficult one. And I think even more so difficult when you're in the trenches of an eating disorder because there is so much shame around it. You don't feel happy about the way that you're living your life, but seeing yourself with compassion of like you gained this eating disorder when you were struggling and you didn't have any other coping strategies, that you had no other ways of managing it. Nobody had taught you, you hadn't developed them. And now it's taken over to the point it's completely taken over your life, and it's more of a stress than the stress you probably had before. And so, but now it's time to find healthier coping strategies. And when we talk about healthier coping strategies with people, like, then we're talking about, okay, well, is that for you? Is that, reading a book? Is it this? Okay, Islamically, we have a lot of coping strategies. We have a lot of rituals to make you feel safe. We have a lot of dua. We have a lot of like community. We have a lot of ways to remember Allah, to bring peace. So like, use some of those, see if some of those help.
And in the end, respecting your body and taking care of your body and doing it with the intention of being a better spiritually, being a better servant of God, just having that intention, recovering with that intention. Just like when
I love that.
when someone says, intend to sleep early so that you can wake up for Fajr and pray,
Yeah.
So it's having that intention that's rewarding.
It's
just
massively
rewarding. Not just personally, even from God. If you intend to take care of yourself so that you can serve Him better, just that will have hasanat.
That's beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. And I used to really struggle with the idea of like, well, I wanted my body to be smaller, and I used to get frustrated that, well, other people can be in a smaller body and they're healthy. And I used to get really frustrated, annoyed with that. Like, well, other people can get pregnant and a smaller weight. Why can't I? I'd get really annoyed. And then you start to think, well, no, well, this is the way Allah made me. And like in His wisdom, like He wanted, this is the set point that, or the range that He created for me, and that's what I need to accept and surrender to, and realize that one is what is best for me. Like, let's not fighting against that all the time, just let go and surrender. And I can't tell you like how powerful that was for me when I let go and surrender in like so many aspects of my life, like with recovery, but also like having children, all of those things. And even in our coaching, there was so much, like, I think, connections. I don't know if you saw it as you were going through it, but like even Carolyn talks about like the eating disorder commandments, like this eating disorder commandments that we create, and all of these rituals around soul food and bringing like prayers to food and making it like a spiritual kind of like situation. I was like, we have that in Islam.
Because everyone needs that.
Yes.
You need that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Naturally, we all feel that inclination to need that. So I feel like, Islam has so much to give to recovery. And it's just a beautiful kind of way to transition into more of a healthier, positive way that feels so much more value aligned, with all of the tools, with all of the ways that you can kind of see what your identity will look like on the other side.
And when you said about, Allah made me this way, that, for me to be in a healthy body, I'm not as skinny as, diet culture wants me to be, or society says is more beautiful. Because in the end, it's always unhealthy to change whatever your natural body should be, or anything else actually to do with how you look. So, for example, if you have very pale skin and you want to keep getting a tan, okay, it might look better and you might like it more, but is it healthy? It's not the healthiest thing.
No.
Okay?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And we're talking about simple things. Okay, so even like coloring your hair, you might want, highlights, but it's not the best thing for your hair. Even when you're older and you have more gray hair and you want to cover the gray, that's not the best thing for your hair. I'm talking about like very simple things.
Simple things. I completely agree.
Change, they're not the best thing for you.
So I know.
It's the same, and
you're right.
Most people will agree with you that putting too much makeup on isn't great for your skin, tanning all the time isn't great for your skin, coloring your hair too much isn't great for your hair. Everyone won't disagree with that. But forcing yourself to be in a smaller body, no, that's good for you. That's okay.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. Such a good.
You know what I mean? It's so ironic. Like everything else, and in the end, it's a personal choice. If working out all the time or putting makeup on or whatever is something that you can do without it taking away from a good quality of life, then fine, do it. but everyone's different.
Everybody's different. And what some people, they might be really into exercise, for instance, but they can take it or leave it. So if an emergency comes up in their family, they can drop it, no big deal. They go on holiday, no issue, I can take time off. But for people with eating disorders, it becomes like a source of stress if they then can't keep up with the thing that they've become attached to. So that's where the issue lies, isn't it? When it creates so much stress to be able to abstain from doing that thing.
But you see those people and you think, but they can do it, just like you said, but they can do it, so why can't I?
Yeah, so frustrating.
Exercises every day, and why can't I?
Yeah. And the thing is, that's where we realize, like, okay, we're all different. We're all made different, you know? And everybody there's many people who have different struggles with many different things that I don't have struggles with personally, but like, that's their struggle. That's their thing that they've been given. And like, then we have to just accept that is my health legacy. That is even now, like, I know that I've had an eating disorder in the past. I'm not gonna, mess around with that kind of stuff again, because I know that is like my genetics. That was my past, that's my health legacy. And so like when I got pregnant with my kids, I told the doctors, I was like, look, I've got a history of eating disorder. I made sure they were aware of it, like that sort of thing. And I think that is like accepting that acceptance piece of like, yeah, this was what I was doing, and recovering protecting my recovery is a very important part of my life now. It's like, no, I don't do that. That's never for me. Where other people could, engage in these kind of like ultra marathons or something like that. It could be really healthy for them. It could be really good for them and have many positive outcomes. I know for me personally, it wouldn't be healthy. It wouldn't show a good sign. It would be, what does Carolyn call it? Like a self-sabotaging kind of thing. Like it's just not for me. And even though I'm fully recovered and I'm not triggered in that way, why would I ever go down that route? So yeah, I think that's what it is. It's like accepting. That's the genetics I was given. That's the health legacy I've given. And that's me.
And it's also finding your spiritual practice, your own spiritual practice, not someone else's.
Yes.
What makes you feel happy, what makes you feel content when you put your head on the pillow at night is not the same as someone else's. Someone might be waking up for, an hour before Fajr and reading Quran. Okay, I can't do that. What can I do?
Yeah.
And not compare yourself to someone else. Maybe you'll get there one day, but don't compare yourself, and find whatever it makes you feel that spiritually you are content at this stage.
I love that. No, I love that. And is it right? Oh, there's like so many doors to Jannah. Like there's so many ways. There's like a fasting one, a charity one. And I feel like that's so symbolic of the fact that there isn't like one way to get connected to Allah. Like some people might find fasting really connects them. Some people, maybe they've got an eating disorder. And even like after I recovered, by the way, I didn't go into Ramadan and I really had to solidify my recovery. But for some people, obviously it's not triggering at all. Maybe that's their way of connection. For some people it might be prayer, for some it might be charity. And that's the thing, it's like finding the one that is really your way to connect. So yeah, I love what you said there.
Is there anything you feel we didn't cover, you'd love to share? Any piece of advice or encouragement you'd like to leave the listeners with?
Yeah. I think remembering to like something that I really struggled with, I think initially coming to Islam was like, I think I carried a lot of shame for not doing everything, not being the perfect Muslim like you were saying. And like just remembering like Allah just wants you to come as you are. Like come to the mat broken. Like you don't need to come as a finished product. You don't need to look the perfect Muslim. You don't need to be the perfect Muslim if there even is such a thing. Like come broken. Come like in tears. Come with all your problems. Like just come to the mat and just talk to Allah. Like, and I think, and then take the little steps. I feel like with the eating disorder, we can be in a very like black and white, all or nothing mindset. So like, don't transfer those qualities to Islam. Try your best not to. So don't say, well, I'm praying 5 times a day or nothing at all. I'm doing all of this or nothing at all. And okay, if you missed something, like it's okay. Remember that Allah is the most compassionate and most merciful, and you try again. Like it's okay. Don't see the day as a write-off. Well, that's it. That day was ruined. Don't compare yourself to other people. It's very difficult recovering from an eating disorder, not everybody is going through what you're going through. Don't compare your path. Allah sees your path just as you are. So what I would say is like, take small steps and just remember that Allah wanted you here for a reason. He wanted you to be healthy just as you are in the body that He made you. And so yeah, just try to like keep that in the front of mind when times are really difficult.
Perfect. That is perfect. We were talking about not being perfect, but that was perfect.
Yeah. Oh, bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
love
Safia.
this
I really
discussion.
enjoyed
Thank you
this
so
discussion
much.
with you, and I learned so much. And sometimes I had goosebumps, to be honest.
Oh, bless you, bless you. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. It's honestly been so wonderful. I've absolutely
It's my
loved talking
pleasure.
about it. So thank you.
It's
Thank you
really
so
my
much.
pleasure, and I look forward to having many, many more discussions with you in the future.
Inshallah, for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to Safia for sharing her story and wisdom with us today. I loved how she connected faith and recovery in such a hopeful and practical way. And to everyone listening, I hope this conversation inspires you to see recovery not just as freedom from struggles with food, but also as a path towards deeper connection with yourself and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can find Safia's details in the links provided in the show notes. And if this episode touched you, please share it with someone who might need it. And as always, thank you for listening to the Kifaya Diet Podcast. See you again soon.